Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and we're finally covering the comprehensive rules changes that come out with, believe it or not, Modern Horizons 2. You don't usually see that with like a master set because they're all reprints, but we've got brand new cards, so we've got brand new rules, and they're pushing how the cards work, so we've got quite a few rules changes. I never understood why these videos get views. I recorded the first one ever and I was like, this is boring as hell. And then it got like 10,000 views. So I'm like, I guess you guys are into this. I guess all my viewers are judges or something, which I'm going to background check all of you now. I don't trust y'all, especially you furry freaks. But anyway, let's start with 107.7. Oh, I'm so excited about section 107. 107 subsection 7 is my shit. This is the rule which covers the Planeswalker loyalty symbol. Karth the Lion uses it in an additional cost, which we haven't seen before. The rule is updated to cover that use. Wow! By the way, that card, in case you don't remember, is the one with like the little pentagon house shape with a +1 in it. You know how like the neutral ones are square, and then the ones that go up in loyalty have like a mini arrow up, like it's a house, and then it's an upside down house shape if it's not. Well, now they put it on a card, so they did add a rule defining that. So I wasn't imagining it that, like, nobody knows what the hell that is. Never been seen before in the game. So next up, we got 109.4B, which is, of course, vastly superior to A. It states that, well, I'm not reading the rule, I'm reading what they changed about the rule. Normally, only objects on the stack and battlefield have counters. 109.4 has a list of exceptions to that rule. A new rule here clarifies that triggered abilities that have triggered but not yet been placed on the stack do have controllers. When would that ever be relevant? Like, when is there ever a gap there where somebody would sneak something in? I mean, you're like, this trigger went off, and by this trigger went off, you mean it's on the stack. There's no gap there. You can't react to something going on the stack before it goes on the stack. That's like a fundamental part of Magic. So I don't know why they felt the need to do this, but whatever. The rest of the section is moved down one letter. That's a shame. B was the cool one. 111.10F. So I can't believe I didn't think of this. So previously, clue tokens were only defined by the rule for the investigate keyword action. Yeah, even though they're like completely their own thing. I mean, that was the only way to create them before. And if you're thinking, no, that can't be right now, you're thinking of treasures. You can create treasures like all over the damn place now. And also, I think they never were tied to a keyword, but still. So a couple of cards in Modern Horizons 2 for the first time create clue tokens without investigating. So the definition of a clue token has been moved to the predefined token section, which is honestly where it should have been in the first place, in my opinion. So then, of course, the Cringelord author says, it's been moved to the predefined token section, and now clue is cool enough to hang with its cousins, treasure, and food. Great. Rule 701.36, investigate, was updated to refer to this rule. Next up, 113.6a, characteristic defining abilities function everywhere, even outside the game. They also function before the game begins, and this rule was given an update to clarify that fact so that you know you can have Kahira the Orphan Guard be your companion when there are shapeshifters with the changeling ability in your deck. Oh, that's actually interesting that they had to write that, because that you could actually question that if that's like during gameplay only or only in your library hand and battlefield. No, a changeling is a changeling on the card outside the game, before the game, after the game. It is always every type. And then they said Rule 604.3 is receiving the same update. I'm not familiar with that one. I'm not familiar with any of them by number, actually. I don't know why I phrased it that way. Next up, we've got 113.6c. Most abilities that don't function on the battlefield state what zone they do function in. Grist the Hunger Tide has a new kind of ability that instead states what zone it doesn't function in. A new rule tells us that this functions in every other zone. How would that not be assumed? I mean, I don't like jumping to conclusions and assumptions in the game. I'd rather have it written out, but like, really? The average person wouldn't automatically just go there in their mind that, oh, if it doesn't function here, it still does function in every single other one because that's how everything else in the game works. Really, it's a little more complex than that, but still, it says a new rule tells us that this functions in every other zone, including outside the game and before the game begins. So, okay, there's that again. This means that Grist can be your commander, but can't be played in a deck with Kahira the Orphan Guard as your companion. The rest of the rules in this section have moved down one letter. And then we're jumping all the way to 603.2h. You won't believe this, that in the history of the game, this has never come up. So, Nykthos Paragon, okay, it's a 6-cost, white, 4/6. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many 1/1 counters on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. They claim that Nykthos Peregrine has a new triggered ability with the words "do this only once each turn" at the end of it. So implying that this is the only time that that has ever been phrased that way on a card ever. I don't believe them, but I'm too lazy to check. So a new rule explains that this means two things. First, it means that you cannot take the preceding action more than once in a turn. Second, it means that once you have taken that action, that ability no longer triggers this turn. So they had to define exactly what that phrase meant because no other card has said once per turn. Really? No triggered abilities on any card ever only go off once per turn. I don't believe that, but once again, I am way too lazy to check. Next up, 603.12, Valentine, Dean of the Vein, has an interesting reflexive triggered ability. It's not that interesting. Hostage Taker had a reflexive one. It was a self-contained infinite loop, and you guys are idiots, so I'm not even surprised. They had to Oracle update that like the day before it came out. Anyway, it has... Oh, no, I read that. Specifically, it's... one that comes from a replacement effect rather than a resolving spell or ability. This rule has been updated to include replacement effects. I have no idea what they're talking about. It's a death replacement effect, and then you exile the card, and then you create a pest. So I don't get where there's a reflexive recursion or whatever. Is it like if you stack two replacement effects? I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Next up, 606.45 and 6, Karth the Lion has a unique ability, oh it's him again, that adds an additional cost of 1+1 loyalty to Planeswalker loyalty abilities. A new rule and some updates to old rules clarify how this works. Good, because nobody knows how this works. Specifically, multiple costs to add or remove counters are combined into a single cost when determining whether you may activate a loyalty ability and how many loyalty counters to add or remove as appropriate. I have no idea what would do that. Like a self-doubling effect? Isn't that a thing? Is there an emblem that does that? Or maybe like an X ability? I don't know. I don't know what they're referring to, but I feel like it could be something. Then they say this matters for replacement effects that care about putting counters on objects. Actually, it kind of cares about ones that don't. There was something about crewing on a Planeswalker, right? Like you could use the Planeswalker to crew a thing. I don't know. That might have just been an ability. I don't remember. It sounds like it would involve proliferate, but that's not technically a replacement effect, so I don't know. I can't think of what they're referencing, but I know it's out there somewhere. Next up, 607.2p, Murktide Regent has both Delve and a linked ability that refers to cards exiled with it. These abilities are linked, and a new rule explains how that functions. Even though it's pretty darn easy to figure out how that functions. Next up, 702.6c. This is the rule that explains how the equip quality creature rule works, and it was due for a rewrite, as they put it. With the way the word creature may or may not appear on these equip abilities, a literal reading of it was kind of weird and redundant. I've never read it, I'll take your word for it. A lot of words change, but functionally, it is the same. The new phrasing did make 702.6d unnecessary, though, so it was removed, and 702.6e took its place. But we're not done with 702 yet. We've got 702.16j, and actually after this is quite a few more. This is the rule for protection from everything. It covers a lot of things. You might say it covers everything. Ha 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 ha, saw that one coming. Except players, as it turns out. Teferi's protection gives a player protection from everything, and now this rule follows suit and refers to players as well as permanents. Holy shit, was everybody just playing that one protection from everything card incorrectly now? Because I would have assumed that included players. It didn't say protection from permanents. And spells. That would cover everything, right? Yeah, what else would it be? Because like a Planeswalker ability source is a Planeswalker and a Planeswalker is a permanent. So, I mean, I thought everything meant everything. You cannot target it with anything. The only way to get rid of it is to like board wipe it or whatever. Well, there's some news for you Progenitus players. Apparently he was susceptible directly to players, which like what can the player do? Like launch a missile at him? Physically pick the card up and rip it up? I don't know. There's probably some card in the game that says, like, you, the player, gain an ability. I don't frickin' know. Just because I can't think of a scenario where it might come up doesn't mean it didn't, although it probably means it didn't. But, you know, darn it if they didn't feel the need to change it. So next up we got 702.19. This is the Trample section of the rules. Trample over Planeswalkers ran right into this section. Oh, God. As new rules were added and old rules were changed. Ran right over. Trample still works the way it did before. Trample over Planeswalkers works the way you'd expect it to. I love that. I wonder if that's what they wrote in the rule. It works exactly like you'd expect it to. We're not writing a rule, dumbass. Figure it out. And hopefully, we've hopefully covered all the odd corner cases where Thrasta is attacking a Planeswalker that is then somehow animated and blocks for itself. Yeah, that sounds like something that would happen. They say don't think too hard about that one. I can totally conceive of how that would happen. It might create a time travel paradox. I really don't know. Really? That's the most complicated one? That's not even the most complicated one so far. Next up, 702.82c. That's right, 702 is like the biggest section ever. They just said, it turns out goats will eat anything, so this new rule covers Caprichrome's Devour artifact ability. That's a Robo-Goat, by the way, in case you don't remember. I don't know why they had to redefine Devour. It already was a mechanic, but okay. Next up, 702.92. We're still cranking them out in 702. The Living Weapon rule has been updated to make Phyrexian Germ creature tokens. It is otherwise unchanged. What the hell did it say before then? Oh, instead of just black germ token, it's now a Phyrexian creature subtype germ. Okay, well, f*** you too. I don't agree with that Oracle update, by the way. The changing all Phyrexians to be Phyrexian subtype. I think that's bullshit. So finally, we're landing at 706.13. This new rule covers Karth One Eye's ability to create copies of objects that aren't currently in the game. Wait, what? What do they mean by in the game? Like in the game as in the match versus your opponent, or in the game as in one of these doesn't exist and I just didn't catch it? Because Disenchant is a card, Brain Geyser is a card, Terror... I'd have to check. What else we got? Let's see. Shivan Dragon, obviously. Regrowth, obviously. Black Lotus, obviously. Yep, there is a card called Terror. So I guess by in the game, they didn't mean in the game. Like, we've had cards like, what is it? A Dragon Vial, Fire, whatever, where, like, the one card referred to it about a quarter year before the card had actually been printed. So the rule probably just says make a token with the same properties as that card as if it were a token, or... like, put it onto the stack if it's a spell, or I don't know. I mean, I know for a fact in the rules that the way they phrased it is not considered casting the spell, so for purposes of cast triggers, it wouldn't set them off, but that's defined in a different section of the rules. They might have reiterated it there, who knows. And, yeah, then they added the subtype of Ranger, the Planeswalkers, Daikon, Daihata, and Grist, new glossary entries for Clue Token, Trample over Planeswalkers, and revised glossary entries for... Encore and Search, okay, and then Learn. Huh. Just kind of burying the lead at the end there without explaining it. That's kind of weird, but yeah, those are all the rules updates. These are actually kind of interesting. Maybe that's why these videos get rules. I don't know. You guys probably, like, every time you see the title, I just assume people click on it thinking, like, it's basically clickbait. Like, oh, they changed the rules of the game, and it, like, none of it means anything or affects your life in any way. Like, people come in like, oh, we're going to start with a life total of 30 now, and then they're just like, yeah, we've changed one little word about how werewolves work, and people just... are disappointed, but hey, whatever, I'll upload anything that gets views. Just look at my second channel. Just kidding, that doesn't get shit for views, but I do go over there and eat weird food, so just literally type in Desolator Magic 2. You can't miss it. I upload there like once every 2 months, so yeah. Honestly, you should just sub over there because, like, you'll never see the content because I barely upload content over there, but it's the backup channel to this one in case something happens to this one, so you really should sub over there. Especially since I deleted my Twitter in protest because f*** that company. Oh, and my Discord is in public, so yeah, pretty much you're going to want to go over there if you want to see if something happens. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time.